A lazy, faithless preacher is called to bless a haunted house. He finds a poltergeist, but it's much worse than he expected.
Brother Matt? He immediately recognized the voice of Sister Jules. A single mother, she and her son and daughter were faithful members of the church who never missed a meeting or service. Being the preacher at a small-town Protestant church was a good job for a lazy man, and it fit Matt just fine. 2 sermons on Sundays and a Bible class on Wednesday nights, and the rest of the week was his. The church members just assumed that he was always studying or preparing sermons, and no one ever really bothered him. The occasional call, moral question, or sick member might take an hour or so of visiting or conversation here and there, but overall, Matt was a free man. Did he believe in his faith? Not really. Raised in the church, he saw religion as simply another part of his life as a child, and now as a young adult it was no more important to him than his choice of lunch or favorite TV show. Still, a man needed an income and he had a talent for public speaking, so he took the easiest, laziest job he could find. "Hi, Sister Jules," he replied with feigned cheer. "How are you today?" Of all the people in the small congregation, Jules's little family were the ones he actually liked. A single mother in her 40s with teenage kids, Jules was kind, relatively open-minded for such a small town, and genuinely tried to live her faith with kindness and generosity. She and her 2 kids were the one tiny thorn in Matt's side because they made him feel guilty for not really caring and being so lazy about his own faith and job. "Oh, not good, Brother Matt. Do you have a few minutes to talk?" "Of course," he said with mild hidden irritation that he would never dare show. His plans for the day had included playing video games and eating pizza. "Oh, good," Jules said. This is going to sound weird, but I just didn't know who else to talk to." "Weird? What could that mean? At least it might be something different from his usual boring life." Sure, no problem, Sister Jules. What's going on?" Well, do you believe in ghosts and things like that?" Matt's face lit up. He was not so sure about God, but he had a fascination with all things ghosts and paranormal. He loved to watch ghost videos online, and one of his dreams was to investigate haunted houses, but the church would probably frown on that, would say it was interacting with the forces of darkness or something. He thought about his reply carefully. "Well, I know things exist that we can't explain. As a church, we believe in life after death, all that, right? So, I would say I have an open mind." There were a few moments of silence, then a sigh of relief from the other end of the line. "Oh, thank goodness. Well, you see, some weird things have been happening in our house and, we can't explain them. I'm not saying it's ghosts, but I wanted to know if you might do some kind of blessing of our house or say a prayer or something like that." Matt felt torn. Of course he wanted to go to a haunted house and check out what was happening. On the other hand, the church elders, those stodgy old conservative men who wrote the paychecks that allowed him to pretend to be a hard-working preacher while living a lazy life of pleasure, would consider it ridiculous and a waste of time. His curiosity won. Sure. I'll go over and see what we can do. Is right now a good time?" he asked while trying to hide his excitement. Technically, it was a spiritual matter, right? "Oh, please, yes. The kids and I are here. Brother Matt, please help us. We're terrified." Her voice sounded exhausted, plaintive. A twinge of guilt poked him somewhere deep inside his heart. He was not a bad person. He tried to help people. He did not hurt people. Sure, he was lazy and taking the church for a ride in exchange for an easy job, but he could hear the desperation in Jules's voice. "I'll go over right now. Just hang tight and pray, all right?" he assured her. Not really believing in prayer anymore after so many failed tries, but wanting to make her feel better. Thank you so much," she said before ending the call. He hung up the phone and for the first time in ages felt excited about something related to his job. In the small town, it only took him about 5 or 6 minutes to arrive at Jules's home. A lovely, if not slightly worn, Victorian house from long ago. Its dusty windows and doors glared at Matt as if daring him to come in and even try. He felt overcome with a dreadful fear at once. He knocked on the door. It was quickly answered by Jules, who looked ragged. Matt had really only ever seen her at church or church functions when she was always dressed well and groomed. She had also invited him to dinner once when he had first begun the job, and everything had been impeccable. Now she looked like she had not slept in weeks. "Sister Jules, hi, are you all right?" he asked with sincere concern. She looked back as if to check if they were alone and waved her hand. "Come in, please." He stepped into the house. He widened his eyes at the state of the parlor. Laundry was piled on the sofa, carry-out food bags were peppered across tables, and even some furniture was askew here and there. She pushed an oily strand of hair behind her ear and said, "I'm sorry the house is a mess. It's just we haven't been able to live normally lately," and a deafening enormous crash came from the kitchen as if every plate, table, chair, and appliance had been smashed into the ground from 100 feet in the air at once. Both Jules and Matt jumped. "Oh God," she muttered, the voice of a woman on the edge of despairing of life. "Please." Matt genuinely felt bad now and wanted to help. "Stay here," he said. He walked slowly to the kitchen, his body tensed almost in a fight-or-flight reaction. He peeked around the corner into the kitchen and saw nothing. The kitchen was perfectly in order. All the cabinets were closed and nothing was disturbed. Just to be sure, he opened a cabinet and saw the dishes intact and stacked up as normal. He returned to the parlor. Jules's two kids, a teenage boy and a teenage girl, were now clinging to their mother like scared toddlers. "Hey guys," Matt said. "All right, can we sit down and talk? I need you to tell me exactly what's going on here." The kids seemed relieved that the cavalry had arrived, but Matt was becoming increasingly worried. "So, let's start from the beginning." The boy and girl looked at their mom. She nodded grimly and began the tale. "It started, well, I suppose a month or so ago. It was little things at first. I'd put my keys on the table and later they'd be in another room. You can kind of justify things like that. Then puddles of liquid would start showing up on the floors in different rooms. There's still one in the dining room that won't go away no matter how many times we wipe it up." Matt had heard about this kind of thing before. It was the same sorts of things that had preceded some of the world's most famous hauntings like the Amityville Horror, the Bell Witch haunting, and the Smurl haunting. "Then the scratching started," Jules continued. "It started in Maisie's room." Her daughter looked at Matt with sad, frightened doe eyes and nodded. "Yeah, I'd be lying in bed and, there'd be this scratching from inside the walls. We thought it was a squirrel or a mouse or something." Her son added, "Mom called the exterminator twice. He said there was nothing there, no animals at all." Matt listened carefully, his forehead bunched up with concentration. It all sounded just like the haunted house documentaries he liked to watch. Jules continued the story. Then the knocking started. All night. Knocks at the front door, but no one was there. Knocking on the walls and ceiling. The knocks became bangs. Now it's every night. Loud banging all night. We can't sleep. Maisie broke down and cried loudly. She buried her face in her mom's shirt and shook with each bawling heave. "And you were here just now when the kitchen crashed," Jules said. "That happens too. Loud booming crashes that shake the house, and when we go look, nothing's out of place." "We're going crazy," said her son. "Can you help us? It's a ghost, isn't it?" Matt looked at the family and his heart broke. This was more than he had signed up for, though. Whatever was happening in the house, it wasn't natural. Honestly, it sounds like a poltergeist. Those are allegedly spirits that do things just like you're describing. What have you tried so far?" he asked. The daughter stopped crying, and the three looked at one another with hints of guilt in their faces. The son said, "Brother Matt, I'll just be honest. We tried communicating with the ghost. I know that's probably a sin." He seemed to be waiting for Matt to confirm or deny. "No, I don't blame you," was all he could come up with. "Go on." "We talked to it and used," said the son, but Jules interrupted him. "Don't tell Brother Matt, you see," she stammered. Her daughter looked at her mom and then at Matt. She said, "We have to be honest, Mom. If we want to get rid of the ghost, we have to be honest. Brother Matt, we used a Ouija board." Matt could not care less. Sure, using a spirit board was considered a sin by the church elders, something about communicating with demons and divination. But Matt had always found the idea fascinating. "It's all right," he said. "Yes, please just be honest. Did it work?" The daughter nodded slowly. Matt saw both guilt and terror in Jules's face. "Yes, it worked. It said it was the ghost of someone who died in this house, but then the things started appearing." "The things?" Matt asked. Now the daughter looked terrified, traumatized. These shadow people," she said in a whisper, as if mentioning them would conjure them. "Tall, thin, dark people that hide in the corners and in our closets. They come out at night and they creep over to our beds and lean over and watch us while we pretend to be asleep." Matt's heart went cold. That imagery made him want to run out of the house and away from the town and never drive through it again. Could such horrible things really exist in this world? "Please," Jules said with her hand tugging desperately on Matt's arm. "Please, help us. Can you bless the house or something? I mean, it's not something I've done really, but sure, I can walk around and pray and ask God to cleanse your house of whatever these ghosts or poltergeists are." He could not really say otherwise, could he? If he refused, he would look like the world's most selfish jerk, and his weakening faith would be exposed to the world. Even beyond that, he truly felt sorry for the family. He imagined trying to live in those conditions, being a high school student having to come home to that, being Jules alone in the house. He grasped the cross that he always wore on a chain around his neck and stood up. His hands were shaking. His courage now was not coming from his small bit of faith, but from the shame of not trying to help the family. He walked throughout the first floor alone as Jules and her kids remained in the parlor huddled together. In each room he said a prayer aloud, asked God to cleanse the house of any lost spirits or evil. He had no idea what to say really, but he thought a basic prayer would do. When he finished the first floor, nothing had happened. He approached the steep, narrow staircase that led up to the second floor. Looking up, it seemed like a cruel mockery of a stairway to heaven that led up into dark rooms and hidden wickedness awaiting him. Climbing step by step, he felt like a prisoner on death row walking to the execution chamber. He was holding the cross so hard that it was stabbing his palm, but it was a welcome distraction from his terror. He reached the second floor landing and paused. There was only silence. The lights were off on the entire second story. He found a light switch and greedily flicked it upwards. For a brief moment, the floor was lit, then the bulbs burst above him. He screamed, then recomposed himself. The room on his right was the daughter's bedroom. She was the one talking about the shadow figures, so he forced himself in there first. He tried to turn on the light, but nothing happened. "Crap," he muttered. With the little sunlight managing to filter in through the curtains, he could see that the room looked like a typical teenage girl's room. Posters of Taylor Swift adorned the walls, and a bed with a pink comforter stood against a side wall. Somehow he felt more secure by sitting on the edge of the bed. He closed his eyes, bowed his head, and prayed, God, Heavenly Father, I pray that you please remove any evil spirits from this house, and if there..." A cold puff of air burst across his face, and he instantly opened his eyes. The room was empty but still dark. He scanned the room with his eyes until they landed on the closet, its door open to the dark space inside. Something darker than the inside of the closet moved within, something so tall it had to bend over at the ceiling. A figure made of shadows and evil creeped out of the closet. Thin, tapered arms reached almost to the floor, and as it walked on its long, bony legs, it was hunched over. It held its arms out towards Matt. He could not move. Mortal dread, the kind that made him feel like he was not only dying but also losing his soul, melted over him. He looked into the thing's face and saw hollow eye sockets and an open, hollow mouth that seemed to keep opening and growing larger and larger so that when it reached him, The open mouth was large enough to swallow his head. The last thing that Matt was able to say was, "It's not a poltergeist.